Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where and when you are watching this. I'm so excited to be here with you. Yes, I am a pain reduction coach, body inclusive personal trainer, and a fibro warrior. But that's not how I started out. And so, from pain to purpose, today I will share my story, what happened, and where I was and where I am now. And hopefully, that will inspire you. It will give you some tools and tips on what you could do to continue or maybe start your journey to live pain free, or maybe even to change your mindset on where you are sitting at this moment in your life. So let us begin the story in 2010. I was working with the school board as an adult educator full time. And what started happening with me was I was getting headaches a lot. I had blurry vision. I was nauseous. And I didn't really think anything was going on. I thought I was tired. I thought I had a little bit of stress, but I didn't think there was anything serious happening. And I kind of shrugged it off, like we do, right? We just go, oh, it'll pass, right? And I was living on ibuprofen and Gravol. And so this cycle, all of these things, the headaches, the nausea, the stress, were going on for close to a year, actually. And they just intensified. So at the school board, at a workplace, in a variety of fields, we often have things change, guidelines are implemented, requirements, responsibilities, things change for us, but we don't really have a say in that. And the powers that be are making these changes and these rules, and you just got to kind of deal with them. And the way that I was dealing with them was allowing them to cause stress, and that's what resulted in some headaches and the nausea and all of that. And it's very hard, because it was very hard, and maybe you're experiencing this yourself. It's very difficult because you have all of these changes that are being implemented, and you don't really have any say in how you're supposed to actually implement these changes, because it's just physically not possible. And so you might be in a situation in your life, whether it's a work situation or a personal situation, where you have many, many changes, or you have things that are beyond your control. And it's overwhelming. It's frustrating. It's disheartening. It, I just, yeah, that's how I felt. Yeah. When you're trying to do things, you're trying to make these changes, but you just don't know how it's physically going to happen. So the situation I was in was being required to teach English to my adult students, and then also meet the requirements of the school board, of the Ministry of Education, of the funders, of the students, of myself. And it wasn't really physically possible to do all the things that I was being asked to do, and also teach, and also have a life, and not feel stressed. And so the stress just kept getting more and more intense. And so then my nausea and blurry vision and headaches got worse and worse. So, what I would like you to do as I just go through this small portion of my story, if it is safe and if you feel comfortable, I'd like you to just close your eyes as I tell you about this moment in my life. So, I go into class, I go into school in the morning, and before I get there, I took my Advil, I took my Gravol, I managed to get myself showered and dressed, get into the car, kind of stagger my way from the car to the park, through the parking lot, and into the building. And I was feeling extremely nauseous. So if you've suffered from nausea, you know what I'm talking about, right? And I walk up the stairs. I go into my classroom and I turn on the lights. And I couldn't see. And I thought, well, you can imagine what I thought. Many words are running through my brain. And after about 5 or 10 seconds, the vision came back in one of my eyes, but it didn't return to the other eye. And I just kind of stood there and I couldn't see out of one of my eyes. And it was absolutely terrifying because I literally was like, WTF? Like, what is actually happening right now? Like, I don't understand what is going on. And so I ended up walking down the hallway. And when I say walking down the hallway, I'm leaning against the wall and sliding my body along the wall. Go up to the second floor, tell my manager, I got to go home. I can't see. And she was lovely. And she's like, can I help you? Can I do it? And I'm like, nope, I got to go. And I left. And I called the optometrist because it's an eye problem, right? They got me in, no problem. Got myself there. They looked at my eye and checked both eyes. And the optometrist said to me, so we're going to send you to the hospital right now. They will be waiting for you. They're expecting you. You need to go right now. And I'm thinking, oh my, like I went from nausea and a blurry vision this morning, like an hour and a half ago, to now I can't see. And now I have to go to emergency and they're waiting for me. And so I was terrified, of course, panicked, didn't know what was going on. And so I was asking, what is happening? What's going on? And the optometrist said, I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. You have to go to the hospital and they have to see you. And I thought, oh God, okay. So called my husband, let him know. He met me there. We were there for a very long time. Lots of tests, lots of fear, lots of overwhelm, uncertainty, not knowing what was happening. And they told me they didn't know what was going on. We can't help you. We will send a referral to an ophthalmologist who is an eye specialist, an eye surgeon. And you'll just have to wait for that. So that's what I did. I kept taking my Advil, I kept taking my Gravol, stayed in bed. I still couldn't see. Fortunately, I was able to see the ophthalmologist quite quickly. And when I went in, it's interesting because in the moment that it happened, I'm panicked. We don't know what's happening. When I get into the ophthalmologist, get in to see the specialist, he's like, oh, yeah, this is common. And I'm thinking, what? It's common that people just lose their vision? And that's what I said to him, like, that happens? Like, that's a normal thing? And he goes, well, let me explain for a second. What's common is your brain has chosen to not let you see. So I had what was diagnosed as central serous retinopathy, which is really irrelevant to this whole thing, but that's what it's called. So you can Google it and find out. But what it is that basically the tissue keeps the fluid out of the retina, okay, from leaking through. There's a barrier. And when you have extreme stress, the fibers of the tissue behind the eye get porous. They get little holes in them and the fluid seeps through. And this is what's causing my blurry vision and succeeding lack of vision. But what the ophthalmologist told me is that most people don't know they have it. And the reason is because the brain fixes it for you. So when we look at things, we see two images and the brain puts them in one. So as you're seeing me, your eye, you have binocular vision actually. The brain makes it monocular. But my brain checked out. It was like, nope, time out. We're not doing this anymore. We're done. You need to figure this out because we're not doing this anymore. We're not playing this game anymore. And it had been sending me signals. Remember, it had been sending me these signals. Now, I know I told you to close your eyes. Please feel free to open them if you have not yet opened them. I want you to look at me because you have vision. So look at me. So, that whole experience was just like, what? My brain is not doing what it's supposed to do. And he said, no, you have extreme stress and your body doesn't want to deal with it anymore. Your brain is not dealing with it. Your brain is telling you, you need to fix something. You need to change something. So it sounds very simple when I say it, but what happened was I ended up in bed for 4 months with a migraine and no vision. And I didn't do anything for those 4 months. What I remember from those 4 months, and even today, I really have a foggy memory of this. I remember taking some meds. I remember bumming myself down the stairs from the bedroom to the kitchen, eating some applesauce, taking my meds with water, and crawling myself back upstairs to bed. That's it. That's all I remember. Nothing took away the migraine, and I'm not exaggerating. I know sometimes when we talk about our story, it sounds like an exaggeration, and I know all these amazing women that have been sharing their stories, there is no exaggeration. What they're telling you has happened. What I'm saying to you is real. I had a migraine for 4 months. The only time I had relief was when I was in excruciating pain. My husband took me to the hospital and they would manually push Demerol or Tramadol or whatever they were giving me in my vein, not through a drip, directly in my vein. I'd pass out for about a half an hour and then didn't feel the pain. When I woke up, the migraine was back. So that's what happened. And I was in bed for 4 months. I lost 4 months of my life because of stress. And so when I went back to work, the vision slowly came back. I went back to work. I started thinking about how I was going to change my life and what things I was going to do differently. Now, if you are like me, the desire to change is strong, but I thought a little bit's good enough. A little tiny change is good enough. So I tried to reduce my stress a little bit. I tried not to do as much extra stuff at work. And my body kind of cooperated for a little bit. But then what happened was I ended up getting a lot of pain. And when I say a lot of pain, so for those of you who struggle with pain, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was about a 15 out of 10 on a daily basis. Every morning I would wake up exhausted because I didn't sleep, wondering, how am I going to get out of bed? How am I going to go to work? So again, we're in the cycle of pain, taking Advil or whatever other medication I had, and hoping that just a little bit I could go to a 14 or a 13 out of 10. That was my hope on any given day. And I went through this cycle for years. And it's the pain recovery cycle. You have a pain flare, where mine was constant, and then you would stay in bed for a few days. Then you would, feel a little bit better. You do more things, and then the pain would come back, and then you go back to bed. And what happened was I ended up missing out on life again. So I lost 4 months of my life being in bed with this vision loss. And then I have all this pain. And so what ended up happening, to be perfectly honest, was a lot of the times I would tell people I was sick. I didn't tell people I had pain. I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea. And I would just say I'm sick, because if I say I'm sick, then people would feel compassion. I felt like I was believed. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, you should stay home if you don't feel well." But if I said I had pain, they're like, just take Advil." Because they couldn't comprehend the intensity of the pain that I was experiencing. Like, they just didn't get it, right? So there are times that there were family functions or things I was supposed to do with friends or even going to work. I would just say I was sick. I'm sick. I can't come, because it was so much easier to lie about it than to actually say, well, I have pain, because people just don't understand unless they have that pain. So the feeling of pain in my body was like bolts of electricity running through my fingers, running through my hands, all the way up my arms, through my feet, through my legs. It hurt to do anything at all. Like, getting dressed was painful. Sitting, standing, breathing was painful, excruciating. And sleeping was non-existent. I literally would pass out because I was exhausted, and I would be bolted awake from the shots of electricity of pain running through my hands and feet, and I would sob uncontrollably in bed. My husband, bless his soul, who is such a I think he's an angel from somewhere else. I don't know where, because he would comfort me and he would try to do everything that he could do to help me. And there really was nothing he could do. So he, passed me tissue and tried to, massage me, but he couldn't, because he couldn't touch me. It hurt too much. And, that feeling of being in pain, I couldn't walk. So remember, I'm teaching, I'm in the classroom all the time. And so my body, my brain, my personality was like, I'm not going to let this win. I'm not going to let this take over. This is not how my life is going to be. And so I managed to have sort of a system of dealing with the pain and being able to kind of get through my day. And if you struggle with pain, or if you know people that have pain, you just get to the point where you're like, "Oh, like today's a 14? I'm a I'm a freaking rock star right now. 14 is good." Or some days, if they were good days, I'd be like a 10 out of 10 for pain. That's a fantastic day, right? So you just kind of you go through the motions, you push through, you keep doing things. You're like, well, it is what it is, right? And I'm just gonna have to try to function and exist, but not live or thrive. And that's where I was. And because I didn't want this to take over my life, I decided that I was going to try something new. So I decided that I was going to play roller derby, because my body's already in pain anyway. What's roller derby if I get banged around a little bit? What's no big deal. It's just a little bit extra, and there'll be a good excuse to have pain. And now when I think about it, that's the thought process. But in at that moment, that's not what I was thinking. Right? I was just like, I got to do something. I got to stay active. I got to keep moving. And it is what it is. If I have pain, I have pain. And so one day at derby practice, we were doing our annual skills testing. And part of that testing is to skate around the track for 5 minutes and do as many laps as you can. And I remember I'm on the track, I'm skating, and I'm coming around the corner. I'm coming to the top of the corner, the apex of the corner, and I collapse onto the track because I cannot stand, because the pain in my feet is so extreme. So I'm lying on the track. I'm curled up in a ball. I'm sobbing uncontrollably. My teammates, who are still in their testing, are jumping over me and skating around me. And I can feel the wind as they're skating by and trying not to hit me. And I can hear their skates. I can hear them coming closer to me. And I could not get off the track. I was crying because I was in so much pain. I couldn't stand up. my feet were like, we can't do the work anymore. So I finally was able to drag myself off the track. I sat in the corner of the rink and I cried. I just wept because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get home. I don't know how I'm going to get my skates off. I don't know how I'm going to live my life or do anything. So eventually, with help of all my wonderful teammates and my husband, I got my skates off, got myself to the car, got myself home and into bed. Called my doctor and got a referral after seeing him for a rheumatologist because they weren't sure what was going on, but they thought we got to get some specialists in there and see what's happening. And I got a diagnosis of fibromyalgia, which getting a diagnosis finally is relief because up until that point, from the pain happening until the diagnosis was almost a year. And you feel relief because you're like, I know what this is called. I know what's happening right now in my body. And I thought, okay, now I can start to figure out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to manage this. Maybe we can start bringing that pain down a little bit more. And, I did what I think many of us do, research. I read everything that I could, all the articles, all the books, went to the websites. I had friends. I had a very good, a close friend who was a mentor of mine. She has fibromyalgia, so I called her. Everything that I read, all the things that I heard, people that I talked to, this is the advice that I got about fibro. This is it in a nutshell. Fibro causes pain. It really, really sucks. You're probably going to be in bed. You better plan for your pain and flare days. It sucks. Again, it sucks. That's how life's going to be. You're just going to have to deal with it. And I thought to myself, well, that's the biggest load I've ever heard. Like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, how is this how people live? And I was not an old woman. Like I was, I got diagnosed. That diagnosis came 10 years ago. And I turned 51 this year. And so I'm like, I'm young. Like this is what my life looks like moving forward. I can't even wrap my head around that. And I just got told, take your meds, do the best you can. And so that's what I did for a really long time, actually, for years. And then I, you know, I lost my best friend to cystic fibrosis in 2016. She had a double lung transplant and lived for 5 years after that and then passed in 2016. And I thought to myself, that was a pivotal moment because I was like, if she could fight through that, I could fight through this, right? So I became certified as a personal trainer. And that was in 2013, so just around the diagnosis time, right? So I'm still teaching part-time. I gone down to part-time. So there's my little piece that I did to deal with the pain and to reduce my stress. And I thought, well, maybe, training would be good. I could get some movement in there. And then my fibro came along. And so that sort of derailed many things. But I still had this idea, my friend Sarah, she passed, she fought so hard. She lived with this condition, the cystic fibrosis. I can fight too. And so when she passed in 2016, that kind of for me was the time when I decided that I needed to really think about what I was going to do. Am I going to be teaching and dealing with all of these stressors that I really can't control and continue on that path? Or am I going to change something? And so I thought I got to change some things. And so I then got a mentor. At the same time that I had this mentor, his name was Kennedy Lodato, amazing man. I was playing roller derby and I had this cyst on my wrist. And I fell during roller derby and they think that it was from the impact of falling that this cyst developed. And it was painful. And when I say it was painful, so remember, I lived at 15 out of 10, but this was different kind of pain. This is very localized. So it felt very different than my other pain. And what happened was I couldn't use my hand. Like I couldn't pick up a piece of paper. I couldn't do the buttons up on my sweater. I couldn't do anything with this hand because the pain was ridiculous. So I basically used only one hand. And I had imaging. I went to see a hand surgeon. When I saw the hand surgeon, he said to me, "It's just a cyst. It's just a fat cell. That's all it is." And I said, "Okay, I understand that." He goes, "And I'm looking at your imaging and I'm looking at the report, right? What you are experiencing, the pain that you're experiencing right now, has nothing to do with that. I don't know what's happening. What you're presenting with does not match your imaging and your report from the lab. I can't help you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye." So off I go. I'm thinking, well, what the heck is going on? My mentor, Kennedy, said to me at that time, "I know this guy." Right? We all have people, right? It's so wonderful. "I got this guy. I want you to go see him." And it was about this. So I drove 2 hours to see Jason. Jason Prasad is his name. And he does a lot of energy work. He works on cleaning up the gut health, reducing inflammation, making sure the organs are functioning well. So I went and saw him. And when I walked into the office, he asked why I was there. I said, "Well, I'm here because of this cyst that's on my wrist." He goes, "You drove 2 hours for me for the cyst?" And I'm like, he goes, "I think you got other things happening." I'm like, "Hey, I got fibromyalgia. I got some arthritis. I got some other things." He goes, why don't we deal with some of those things, and then this thing will take care of itself." So I worked with Jason for about 3 months. We changed my food. We brought my inflammation down. And I worked with a mindset coach. I changed what I was doing at work. I started pulling away a little bit more from teaching, started thinking about more about going into training and coaching. And the cyst went away. It's gone. It's been gone since 2018. I don't really know the moment when it disappeared. I don't know what happened to make it go away, but it's gone. It's never come back. And I don't have any pain from it. And so when I was working with Jason and working with Brenda Johnson was the mindset coach that I worked with and mentored with Kennedy, I was learning all these things about the body and learning about the mind and learning about pain and how your body, deals with pain and what are the causes of pain. And so it really changed my viewpoint on my fibro diagnosis. And as I started going through these different changes, I started pulling more and more away from teaching, going more and more into coaching and training, and my body started getting healthier and better. And my gut health was better, and my skin cleared up, and I slept better. I lost 30 pounds, and like everything changed. And in 2019, I left teaching completely to do my coaching business. And it probably was one of the best decisions I ever made because I had learned all of these things. All these people were brought to me to teach me these things, these lessons about how to live better, how to get rid of pain, how to manage that. And so 2019 was very pivotal because I walked away from teaching. It was a 16-year career that I was like, I'm done. I don't want to be there anymore. I can't handle everybody making decisions for me and me having no control over that. And my body doesn't like it. So I have to make a better choice. In 2022, I had the absolute pleasure of being a co-author in a book. I have it here, Body Bliss, The Journey to Body Acceptance. So myself and 14 other amazing women wrote this book, and it's about our journeys to body acceptance. And through all the things that happened to me all the way back in 2010 through 2011, my perspective on my body has changed, and I've learned so many lessons. And so I want to share with you a few things that, I want you to take with you. All right. So lesson number 1, love your body in all the seasons. Your body will change. It might look different. It might feel different. When you're going your 20s, 30s, 40s, now 50s for me, look very different. And it's okay. Lesson number 2, we get one life. Make it count, right? So think about that. Lesson number 3, there's no shame in asking for help. So I had great mentors. I had these amazing people. When Kennedy said to me, I had this guy that you need to see, I thought, oh, no, another person. Best decision I ever made. So sometimes you ask for help, and you don't have to directly ask a person. Sometimes those people, ask the universe. The universe will bring those people to you. Be open to receiving that help. Number 4, you have the power to change your path. You are on your journey, and you can do whatever you want on that journey. And you get to start over. You get to do things differently as many times as you want. This is very important. And, I'm a teacher. So I always like to leave some little helpful tips of things that you can do if you're dealing with stress, or if you're dealing with pain in your life. Let's focus on pain. So, and it might not be chronic pain, it just might be pains here and there. So the things that I do when I work with my clients is there are 4 main things that we focus on. And this is what I did for myself as well. So I'm not telling you something and doing something different. There are 4 things that you need to look at to reduce your pain. Number 1, triggers. What are your triggers? You cannot fix something. You cannot change something. You can't reduce your pain unless you know what your triggers are. They could be food. It could be people, different situations, conversations, your job, thoughts that you have. There are lots of things that trigger you, but until you know what your triggers are, you cannot reduce the pain that they're causing. And if you do lots of research on pain, and I strongly encourage you to do so, there are so many causes of pain. It's not just a mechanical thing in the way that you're moving. It's not just a physical thing. There are other things that cause pain. So what are your triggers? So my challenge for you, my task for you for this is to pay attention to what's happening in your life. Write down what your triggers are and what is your response. How does it make you feel physically and emotionally? And I would recommend doing that for a few days. If you're up for it, do it for a whole entire week, and then write it down, and then go back and have a look at it, because what's going to happen is you're going to see a pattern, and you'll have certain triggers in your life that are always things that are going to trigger you. And so if you know them, then you can then start to reduce or eliminate them and make changes. The second thing I work on with people is reducing inflammation. Inflammation causes pain, and inflammation, the easiest way, and I put that in quotation marks, to deal with inflammation is to look at the food that you're eating. There are the furious 5. There are 5 things that cause inflammation that we eat: gluten, dairy, sugar, corn, and soy. And I know every time I say this, people freak out and they're like, oh my God, I have to give up everything. No, you do not have to give up everything. But if you don't know what your trigger is, so this is the connection to the inflammation. You don't know what the trigger is. How can you fix it? How can you reduce it or eliminate it if you don't know what it is? So my challenge for you, the task that I'm giving you right now, is I would like you to pick one of the furious 5. My recommendation is sugar, and eliminate it from your eating regime. For, if you can do a week, that'd be awesome. If you can do 2 weeks or even a month, that would be great. If you cannot eliminate it completely because sugar is hiding in everything, then I want you to just be mindful. You get 20 grams of sugar a day. That's it, max. So track it so you know what it is and where it is found, okay? The third thing that I do with my clients and I have them work on is negativity. What are the sources of negativity in your life? Could be people, could be your thoughts, could be things that you're watching or reading. What is your source of negativity? And in my experience for myself and with my clients, the thing that they experience that negative is other people, people that are in their lives. So this is a challenge because you don't necessarily have the ability to eliminate these people, but you can be responsible for your reactions to them. So this is your task. This is your challenge. When you are with somebody who is negative, your job is to not engage with them. You're just going to let them do their thing. And you're just going to look at them and you're going to go, hmm, hmm. That's it. Because people that like to drum up drama and chaos always want a reaction. If you don't give them a reaction, there's nothing for them to do, right? They'll move along eventually. You won't have to eliminate them. They'll be like, yeah, Fran's not giving me a reaction. I'm not going to engage with her. I'm going to go find somebody else. So that's your task. Don't engage. Okay. The fourth thing that I work on and that really impacts your pain is stress. What are your sources of stress? So we cannot avoid stress. It's not possible to have zero stress in our lives. So what I want you to do is think about stress in two categories: internal stressors and external stressors. Internal stressors are things that you control. My thoughts I control, my actions, my words, my behaviors, my emotions. I control those. Those are internal stressors. External stressors are ones I don't control. Other people's thoughts, other people's opinions, scheduling, my boss, my coworkers, my kids. I don't control any of those things. Okay. What they do, how they act, what they say is out of my control. So, what I would like you to do, and this is your task, this is your homework, you're going to make a list of all your stressors, put them on a piece of paper. And then what I would like you to do is look at them, and I want you to write beside them an I if it's internal and an E if it's external. And then you're going to cross off all the external ones. And the easiest way to know if it's external, if it's not you, that's external. Everything else is external. If it's you, internal. Good. You can deal with that. You have control over it. All the external stuff, you have absolutely no control over. So I know I've talked a long time today. I've given you a lot of things. I even gave you some homework to do. I really hope that you found that this was informative, and I hope that you started thinking about what is happening in your life. What are the things that you're allowing to come into your life? What are you doing to move yourself forward on your journey? Because if you are in pain, if you are in a stressful situation, you cannot get out of it until you know what's causing it. And there's never just one source. There's always a multitude of things that are affecting you, that are affecting your life, and that are causing you pain. So I certainly hope that this was helpful. I hope that you gained a few little tips that you can work with and that you can implement in your life. And I thank you so much for listening. And I really hope that it was helpful. It was an honor to be here. So thank you so much to the She Is Me conference. Thank you to Lisa. And thank you to all the other speakers and to all of the viewers for listening to me tell my story. I appreciate you.